Next one is very interesting. Number 9. A student who saw his teacher transgresses the words of the Torah should tell him, Master, you have taught me such and such. So here we are taught how to rebuke your teacher, or not rebuke. Like if he maybe he misspoke, maybe you did not understand his actions. So ask him, right, politely. So here's how you ask person politely. Whenever a student mentions a teacher in his teacher's presence, he should tell him, "You have taught us the following master." Okay, the following master. Okay. So and meaning you taught us like this, but you behave like this. So please explain. He should not mention the concept which he did not hear from his teacher unless he mentioned the name of the person who authored it. So very important. So you have to know your sources, or at least from whom you heard it, right? Maybe a person who was teaching gave you the source, so you did not remember the source, but you remember the concept. So you said, I heard from Rabbi such and such this and this idea. There is no problem. But okay, continue. When his teacher dies, he should rend his garment until he reveals his heart. Right, so all of the garments on the left side. He should never mend them. When does the above apply? To one outstanding teacher from whom he has gained the majority of his wisdom. So that's a very important point. So majority of the wisdom. However, a person who has not gained the majority of his wisdom under teacher's instruction is considered to be both students and a colleague. So that's already we see the level. It's a different level, student and a colleague. He is not obligated to honor him in all the above matters. Okay. Nevertheless, he should stand before him, rend his garment at his death, as he does for all of the deceased for whom he is obligated to mourn. So, when somebody big in our nations dies, so we have to mourn, like somebody very close to us mourn, like one of the 7 relatives. Okay. Even if he learned only one thing from him, whether it be small or great matter, he should stand before him and rend garments at his death. Okay, so a lot of information. All right, so let's start from the beginning, and we're going to explain. A student who saw his teacher transgress the words of the Torah should tell him, Master, you have taught us such and such. So meaning very, very gently. Maybe you would be surprised. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you did not what this teacher was doing. Maybe you misunderstood the Halachah. Maybe you did not know all of the details about the case, what happened before, why he's doing. Maybe it's exception. Maybe he's under duress. Or you never know. So commentaries say Kiddushin 32a makes a similar statement regarding situation when one saw one's father transgress the Torah law. The Rambam infers that a similar concept applies regarding one's teacher, in case of Mishnah. So we said in the previous class, actually, right, that there are many parallels how a person should respect his father and his teacher. And as we said last time, so in some cases when the father for sure is not Torah scholar, so he has to actually the preference precedence is actually comes on the teacher, right? So you have to save the teacher first, redeem him from captives, and help him with a burden if he's carrying the burden, stuff like that, and return his lost object to him. Okay. Why? And we said because your father brought you into this world, and teacher brought you to the world to come. Continue. Others point to Brachas 16a and b, which quotes Rabban Gamliel's students as reapproaching him in such a manner after carrying out a number of deeds which appear contradict his teaching. So as we said before, don't remember, like a long time ago. I mean, in this class, we said sometimes, so students cannot ask a teacher a question on a different subject. I mean, during the class, right? It's one of the things is inappropriate. But a teacher can change the subject, and which said what is the explanation, right? To sharpen the student's mind, right? And he would confuse them, so they would ask a question. So right, so it's which is not to allow them to fall asleep, right? That's a good tactics. Continue. Whenever a student mentions teaching in a teacher's presence, he should tell him, "You taught us the following master." Commentary: the Sanhedrin 99b 101a states, "Who is Epicurus?" So Epicurus is a non-believer. So it's actually, I mean, it says unbeliever, but it's actually most stronger. Okay, it's very bad to be Epicurus. Who is Epicurus? A person who relates a concept from another source that occurred to him while he was sitting before his teacher and states, "What is what that said there?" rather than "This is what you taught us, master." So let us read one more time. It's very interesting. So Talmud says, "Who is Epicurus?" Non-believer. A person who relates a concept from another source that occurred to him while he was sitting before his teacher, and state, "This is what it says there." So like from nowhere, right? Rather than "This is what you taught us." So it's like in some sense it's like some kind of disrespect. Similarly, Moed Katan 7b relates that once Rabbi here mentioned a teaching before his teacher, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and prefaced his statement with expression, "You have taught us the following master," right? And then he gives the whole sentence. From that passage, it appears that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi did not actually make that statement. Rabbi here remarks were merely polite token of respect. Okay, so I'm not sure what should we learn from this, because on one hand is a token of respect, on another hand it's not true. So if this teacher never told you this, so why is you quoting in his name? I'm not sure. Continue. He should not. Okay, let me start from the beginning. So it says, whenever a student mentions a teaching of his teacher's presence, he should tell him, you have taught us the following master. So before that we said when you see the teacher acting inappropriately, you have to ask him why, like you taught us. Otherwise, please explain. So don't attack him. Ask for explanation. So here we say, mention that some things that was taught before, and you wanted to clarify things. He should not mention a concept which he did not hear from his teacher, unless he mentioned the name of the person who authors it. So people say, I heard it somewhere from internet. Okay, it's heard from internet. Okay. So that's exactly what they refer to. So people say, I heard that one rabbi said on YouTube. Right? That's very interesting. So it says, in general, there is an obligation to mention the concept in the name of the author. It says in Megillah 15a. However, in this instance, there is particular obligation to do so, lest it be assumed that the teaching was authored by one's teacher. So it's very interesting. So, I mean, without this explanation, it would be hard to comprehend what it says there. So the explanation said that why, if it was taught by a teacher, so you have to say, teacher, as you told us this and that, I just want to ask additional question. Okay, no problem. Then he continues, said, if he wants to mention something that was not taught by a teacher, so he said he has to say, I heard from such and such a rabbi, I heard from the student of such and such rabbi that in his lecture yesterday he said such and such. Okay, there is no problem. The problem is if this student would continue, right, would not mention whom he heard from. Why? What is the problem? Because it was assumed by default all of his knowledge came from this teacher, from the primary teacher, which is not true in this case. He actually heard from somewhere else. It's very interesting. And maybe whatever he said, it's not exactly correct, and other people would think that his teacher told him something that is not correct. The Yerushalayim Talmud, Brachas 13:1, mentioned the following incident. Rabbi Yochanan was walking, supported by Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi. Rabbi Yochanan complained to him that his students, Rabbi Elazar, never made a statement in his name. Right? It's very interesting, right? So I told him so much, and he never mentioned me as the source of his teaching. Very interesting. Rabbi Yaakov told him that there was a precedent to such a behavior. It was a precedent to such behavior. Rabbi Meir would quote teaching in the name of Rabbi Ishmael, but would not quote teaching in the name of Rabbi Akiva, his teacher. So why is that, right? His primary teacher was Rabbi Akiva, but he would quote something from Rabbi Ishmael and never mention of Rabbi Akiva. So what is the answer? So it's very interesting. I remember learning it. Very interesting. Rabbi Yochanan answered that there was nothing wrong about that because everyone knew that Rabbi Meir was Rabbi Akiva's disciple, and most of his teaching came from him. Meaning, if he does not mention the source, it came from Rabbi Akiva. If he does mention a source, for example, Rabbi Shmuel, so this specific teaching did not come from Rabbi Akiva, but rest of what I said came from Rabbi Akiva. So it's not the disrespect. It's actually by default. Where else do you think my knowledge came from? Okay, it's very interesting. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan, one second. Rabbi Yaakov explained that the same concept applies to the instance in hand. Everyone knows that Rabbi Elazar is your disciple, and most of his teaching are yours. So there is no reason to mention your name basically every time. Thus, were a student to mention a concept without mentioning its source, it would be likely for the listener to assume that it was authored by his teacher. So that's if it's not true or not precise, so it could be like people would think that this teacher taught him this not correct, something that is not correct. If in fact it was authored by someone other than his teacher, right, or the other teacher, and his teacher would not have approved it, creating such an impression would not be respectful to his teacher. So you want to say somebody else's name, say somebody else's name, right? But maybe your teacher did not approve it. It's very interesting.